everybody, and thanks for coming tonight to talk about something that's really recently I've just been thinking a lot about. And it's a case of um, when something's in your mind, then all of a sudden everything you're heightened to everything,
Yeah.
and you see it everywhere. Like I remember when when I was pregnant with my first child, and I wanted to have one of those fancy Emalunga prams, and I really wanted one of those. Now, before I became pregnant, I didn't never saw an Emalunga. Well, then I just saw them all the time. It's so funny when things are in your front of mind. So anyway, this is currently what's front of mind for me, very different to prams. Um, but it's come up a bit in the Facebook groups, and I had cause to pause and think about this, especially since moving to more acquisition-based teaching, and how that really did change the way that I approached talking to my students about how the Japanese classes were a bit different, and they certainly have changed from me from when I look back to the way that how I was teaching, and my interactions with the students also, it changed. So I thought, right, this is something that I think is an important discussion to have, and share some ideas about. So I thought that I would share things that have been helpful for me, and then we can open up and have a little discussion about if there's you know anything else that we can chew the fat about. But the 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 main part of this little mini presentation, I guess, is really I want to credit Dr. Diane Newbow, and who I know quite well, as a wonderful educator and teacher trainer. Um, and Lynn Ramson also helped with curating some of these research quotes. But whoops. There we go. And I will share this whole presentation so you'll have access, and you can use it in your classes or what have you. So this will be accessible in the community. But so you can listen to this. This is only a 5 minute little explanation that Dr. Diane Neubauer gives about how she shares and talks about language acquisition in her classes. So she does it every Friday, and she just spends a little bit of time going through one of the slides, and I've got some of these here to share with you. So she she did it of a Friday, and I thought that was a really nice thing to do, to share a quote or share a fact, some sort of research, and depending on the age of your students, of course, you change the language to make it accessible for them. But I thought that was a really nice way to do it, to sort of drip feed this new way of thinking, I suppose, throughout the course. However long you've got your classes, semester, or for the whole year. But what I did, which was really, I'll just, so that's something there for you to look at your own leisure, that little clip from Dr. Diane Newbow. But what I did was, I might go through to this one here. So at the very, very beginning of one of my first classes, I actually spent some time talking about how things are different to, that I had been learning more about how to teach for acquisition and how that was very different to teaching for learning in a language. And so I used a couple of analogies, and one of them is this sponge analogy, and we talk about how the sponge, that you're the sponges, the students are the sponge, and the water is the language, and we want to be able to use Japanese, and some ways, the traditional ways that really are forced. There's very little input that's more textbook focused and practicing drills and whatnot, forced output. And, when you're squeezing the sponge, there's not a lot. It's like you're spraying on with a little water sprayer. And so there's very, very little input that the students are absorbing. And I said that the different approach is the acquisition. If we're teaching for acquisition, it is very different, but it's like we're putting the sponge in a bucket of water. The water is all the stuff that you can understand, the comprehensible input that you can understand. And if we soak it in enough of that and we pull it out, well, then we don't have to squeeze. It comes out effortlessly. So yeah, the key focus message is, to flood the students with lots of meaningful input first, and then the output comes naturally. The other one that I did was just a very simple explanation about, how when children are babies, they're not born with any language. I mean, they're hearing in the womb, of course, but then they're not speaking anything. They don't come out, speaking. They actually need thousands and thousands of lots of hours of listening to the people around them, and that's the input that they hear. And they might not say anything for, we talk about how long it was before the students said their first, their first words, and, can be 12 months, 2 years before they're actually speaking. And even then it's very limited, but they understand a lot more. My daughter actually is, she's nannying as a way of, getting by as a student. And, she was saying she teaches this boy, Marty, and he's, 2, and she said he's got 2 older brothers. He understands so much, but he just doesn't speak, but he understands everything. And it was a reminder to, yeah, that's right. It's the understanding is there, and it comes out when they're ready. So yes, I would draw the brain on the board and say, we need to almost water the brain with we've got to get Japanese in there. And the way that we do that is through our eyes, through reading, that's input, and listening through our ears. And, so we are like babies in Japanese. And, I'm like a language parent. I'm trying to give you that, all that input that your mums and dads and the people around you did in English. And the real positive thing that came out of being really open with the students was it really did, it impacted a few ways, I think. One, the students were actually responded positively, knowing that and I would say I wanted to know what it's like to be an absolute beginner, not knowing anything. And I did, a couple of beginner classes in another language so that I could really understand what it felt like to be a student again and not know anything. And they really responded well to that, that vulnerability, I guess. So there was that point. And also Diane Newbow also mentions this too, just with classroom management. And I think it's it helps to have that, again, that connection, and knowing that the students appreciating or acknowledging that your craft and that research background. It's not just you teaching it, but there's solid research behind it. And I feel like I've missed a point here that I wanted to make. Yes, so I'll just go back here to the differences between the learning language and the acquisition of language here. I've got a couple of things here to share, and this is, I think, an very simplified summary of the differences there, but you could go through with the students and talk about what does that mean, subconsciously picking up the language, and what is it when we're consciously studying a language. And so looking at the comparative there, talking about input versus output, which is what I've already spoken about. And just keep moving through here. So I think it explains the different way of approaching the lesson. Gives more context for the students, which helps them understand that. So those are those that I wanted to share. These are some of the quotes that Diane Neubauer has shared, and for extra background info, there's links there for the references. And as I said, she has a little mini video that she goes through and explains how she uses it in her classes. And I believe that most of her classes, in the past anyway, were older students and adults. So I think that if you were wanting to do this with your students, you might need to break this down a little bit, or perhaps use the one with the two comparisons that I shared just before, that show the language learning versus language acquisition. But I do really like, and I think it's important, it's a helpful resource to have for the teacher to also have this as their own background knowledge. So language acquisition is a subconscious process, and it's already happening. And I think the response that I got from the students when I said that, it's very different to learning another subject. There's nothing quite like it. It's not the same. You can practice grammar, but language acquisition is different, and that's pain-free if you are listening and following along. And I like how it puts the onus back on the students then. I would say to my classes, it's very easy to do very well in Japanese if you are, if you're following along and allowing the input to do its thing. So I won't go through all of these. Like I said, I will share this whole slideshow, and there are a number of these ones. Again, I would just say, less is more a little bit. So maybe if you have your students, for several classes a week, maybe choose one a week. It could be, if you had them just for in primary school, it might be, you might like to read through these ones and pick out one or two that you would like to share with the students. But what I really like about it is that it justifies, and when the students have this understanding, something shifts. It's for the most part, I think it really does um, help the students to see things differently for their language learning. So as I said, there's quite a few here. This one is really interesting. This is uh, Dr. Benico Mason. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with her. She's she's very experienced in story listening and the power of stories in language acquisition. And so this is really interesting. I don't know whether you can see that. So two groups took vocab tests and then were tested again a week later. So you can see the obviously the ones, if they're learning for a test, there's that spike in recognition, but it's not maintained. Whereas you can see clearly using stories changes that. So I'll just go through to the end in case there's some questions. So yeah, these ones are some of the ones that were shared by Dr. Neubauer and that I have used. So I thought I would share those ones as well. And hopefully that is something that you might try, and hopefully that shifts the conversation a little bit for your students. So that's all I have as far as my presentation goes, but I'd love to hear if you've got any questions or thoughts about any of this or anything that you've noticed in your classes that has been tricky that, yeah, you'd like to.
Yeah, I haven't done anything so structured as that, Monique. So I'm in a primary school and
Yeah.
I teach prep to year six. But it's funny you're actually talking about this week. You know how you were saying things pop up
Yes.
yeah. So I've really focused on with the preps, for example, we're just focusing on following instructions in Japanese. And I've really focused on please look and please listen. And for the prep level, I've just been saying, because if you don't look, the words can't get into your brain.
Yeah.
And if you don't listen, the words can't get into your brain.
Yes.
So that's really, really simple. But I think because I've had a couple of parents question the achievement standard that students got on their last report, and these kids who were queried were year ones. They've never done Japanese before, and to me, that I think they were a C because it was, the achievement standards that I was assessing against last semester.
Yes.
I think they were a C, but I tried to explain to the parents that I think that's absolutely appropriate.
Absolutely.
Language acquisition takes time, and they might be understand. Well, I know these kids are understanding a lot more than they can output, and so please don't make them worry about their Japanese because they're doing brilliantly. Just keep going. A C is very, very happy. But those slides, I'm thinking that might be a really good thing to break down across the next semester in parent newsletters. So letting parents know this is the theory behind what we're doing. So just because your child gets home and they can't tell you everything, all the things that we were listening to in class, doesn't mean they're not learning. It doesn't mean they're not doing well.
Absolutely, Rachel. And you're spot on. I think that was another, I think there's a case that we need to educate the parents with this, because they are probably coming in with their own experience of, well, how I learned was I studied for a test or I just
Yeah.
memorized this or whatnot. So they're bringing their own memories and perceptions into this. But also, I knew there was one other thing, and that was uh, I think it'd be perfect. For the news, say a newsletter, something similar to that, like you're saying, to drip feed the information about how language is acquired and putting it back. I think, if parents, if you can talk like, explain it like you're the language parent. You are like you are.
Yes.
Sensei
Yeah.
is the language parent, and in the time that we have, we are trying to give as much input as possible. But yeah, it takes time. It's a process, and it's not. Yeah, so there was that point. I also did, which I could not find for the life of me, but it was for the secondary, but it was really an overview, just like this, of how it's different. And that
Mm,
went home to the parents and they signed it. So I said, why we're doing the things that we're doing. It might be worth thinking about something, if not in the newsletter, like and I asked the parents to read it and sign it, and so that there was
mm,
an understanding of why things look different. And I said it does look very different to other subjects, and just because they're not producing doesn't mean that they're not acquiring. And
mm,
I think that needs to be, um, yeah, made very clear to the parents, I think. Yeah.
mm. Yeah.
Um, I just feel for the students that if their
I
parents
know.
are putting that sort of,
In grade
really,
one, I was so sad. And they
mm,
said, so both of these parents said, but they got A's and B's in everything else. And
mm,
they only got a C in Japanese. I thought, oh, I
yeah,
wonder, I hope you didn't
yeah,
say it like that
to
to the
them.
students when they got
Mm,
their report, because
yeah,
they're enthusiastic and they're enjoying Japanese. And
yes,
I said, I'm so happy where they're at, that they're where
yes,
they should be for now. I just want
yeah,
them to keep enjoying it and keep listening and keep joining.
yes, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think that's
But
it.
yeah, I like the idea about the like a letter home where they like
Mm,
show me that you've read this,
yes,
like with a
exactly.
student.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. That's
mm,
yeah. I think that's, yeah, something worth looking into if and then
mm.
as I said, it's just educating.
Also, when you said before oh, sorry,
Mm. No, no,
you,
you
you
go.
were saying you were saying that how students are unaware of the process.
Mm.
That reminded me of this was last year at a different school. I was
Mm.
teaching year sevens, and a couple of those really studious kids who want to write lists of words, and
Yes.
they want to
Yeah.
learn it the way they learn other things.
That's right.
And,
Yes.
and I was trying to say to them, that's how I learned. I got given a list of words and I had to go home, and I knew on Friday I'd be tested. But
Mm.
I just want you to listen
Yeah.
and try to let me know when you don't understand, and I'll
Yes.
make sure you understand.
Yeah.
That's how you'll get it. But
Yeah.
and one student said, but you're not teaching us how to join an adjective to a verb or something. I was like, you don't need to worry.
No.
Really, did you understand the story we did?
Yes.
Yes, but I want to know how to say it. I was well,
Oh,
just go with the story for now.
yeah.
Some kids struggle with that because it's different, isn't
100%. Yes, yes. I have had a very similar situation with a boy. He was a high functioning but autistic boy. He was great,
it? Yeah,
he was fantastic, but he really struggled with that, exactly what you're saying.
yeah.
Just, um, just, I think it's that lack of control. They feel that they're
Mhm.
not in control of it because they can't see it. It's
Yeah.
and Diane Neubauer, she explains it really well in her little video here. I made a note of it. It informs them what they can expect in that class and she explains it much better than me, but it explains, the way why you are teaching the way that you are teaching, and also why they might understand more than they can actually produce,
Ah,
naturally. And it so I think that this sort of discussion about language acquisition is particularly important for those kids, those
mm,
high-flying kids that really
yeah,
want to know, and they want the answer. And you know, I I am against the list, but I did um, I did back down on, and I thought, you know what, if the kids want that, a list of the words that we were using, like the Super Seven and things like that, I
mm,
gave them access to that. But yeah, this is for secondary, so not
yeah,
suitable for your primaries, of course. But and after, yeah. I think they want it, thinking that that's what they should be getting, that's going to help them. But over time, they could see that that actually wasn't helpful in the lesson at all, and they were still doing fine. And I think
yeah,
the other thing too is, um, sh showing um, showing them how much they have improved is really important. So when looking at both summative and formative assessment is really, really important, because it really can boost them when they can see how much they have improved. And sometimes like it's so slow that they can't see it. It's not like a test. Oh, I got, 10 out of 10, and it's an easy thing to see, and for them to assign some level of, pride to that. But I think teaching for acquisition, we really need to be, it's even more important to think about the ways that we can showcase what they do know. And there's different ways of doing that we won't have time to talk about tonight, but
yeah,
yeah, really assessing for language acquisition so that they can see, yep. Like one simple thing that I can think of, again, with a class that I did, I said at the beginning, um, okay, I showed them a little story that was all written in script. Um, and I said, well, we're going to be reading this at the end of this, this is what we're going to be reading. And they were like, no way, no way. And then at the end of the year, I happened to find that, I forgot about it. We moved on to something else. And I found that, and I showed it back to them. And I said, remember and they were like, that's so easy, and it was just so good for them to see that. Whereas they, it was so small, but so persistent, the
yeah,
improvements, that it was like piecemeal, piecemeal, piecemeal. Oh, wow, I can read that,
yeah,
you know? So really making a point, this is what I thought to myself, I really need to make a point of showing them how much that they ha have acquired.
yeah.
Yeah, because
Mm.
yeah, it's also motivating for them too when they can see that. Yeah.
Mm.
So
That's probably another good reason for having stories that you've used in class
mm,
as like free. I don't do free voluntary reading because I just can't fit that in. Well,
yeah,
I would love to. I'm sure
yeah,
there's a way, and one day maybe I'll get there.
yeah,
But
yeah.
having, sometimes we'll have like 5 minutes free time at the end
Mm,
of the lesson, and I've got a whole stack of Japanese kids magazines and comics, and
Yep.
they love just looking through those. But
Yeah.
I've also got some of the stories that we've done in class,
Yeah.
and I'll go through and go, oh, that was this and that was this. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, that's actually a really good way to show them. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I really struggle with where assessment
Mm.
butts up against language acquisition. I think I
Mm.
need to really look at how I can do that better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's tricky.
A big one for the acquisition for me was I really put a big emphasis on the interpersonal communication skills. And,
Yeah,
because I think it's, if the expectation is that, if you're going to be listening and you're following along and you are engaged and um, all of those things, making yourself the prime conditions for acquisition, I think that um, there should be some acknowledgement for that,
yeah, yeah,
and I think that was quite powerful for some kids that were perhaps struggling with other aspects, but they really did, um, they really made an effort with that, and they really did display those. And there's such important skills.
yes, yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
was but yes. How
When,
about
Well,
when,
oh, sorry.
no, you go.
I have been talking to some of my year eight kids recently about this too, because they've sort of been being very silly, mucking up and inappropriate and whatever, and some of them can't see why it's an issue. I wasn't doing anything, I was just laughing.
Mm,
Okay. And I go right back to that, like, when you're a baby, how did you go from being a baby who couldn't talk to a person who can talk? How
mm,
did that happen? Did your parents give you a grammar worksheet?
mm,
Did they hand you a book and be like, here you go, get
mm.
started?
Yeah.
And some of them can't think. Like, it took some of them a lot of prompting before they were like, oh, I listened and I took it in through listening. And I
Yeah.
said, how do you think you're learning in this class? How do you think that language is coming in?
Mm,
Oh, and I had to have that right back, that conversation about when you're learning it as a baby before it went in. And it did improve.
mm.
It it made them stop and think about
Yeah.
it because oh my gosh, sorry, my cat just walked past and did a really stinky fart. Sorry. Oh,
Oh, I
it's
gotta
really
love
bad.
them.
Um,
Uh,
Jeez.
I can
I
almost
just need to
smell
move
it
somewhere
here,
else.
Tessa.
Yeah. Um, and I've talked to them then about, because these are the ones I started first with trying. And like these kids, the things that they remember so much Boris.
Hmm.
I brought Boris up in a different presentation. It was just like we were reviewing how to do negative. So we did, Janai, because we did heaps of that with Boris. We
Yeah.
did, I asked them, Nani or Shimaska, what's Boris doing? And then we did, he's not eating, he's not doing this, he's playing AFL kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And they were like, it's Boris. Like they were so excited about Boris. And then I had Burger Man feature later on too. And they were like, oh,
Yeah.
um,
Stories for the win, I
it's
tell
him,
you.
it's
Yeah.
Burger Man. So
Yeah.
they remember all that stuff. And I was pointing this out to them. And
Mm.
then the other stuff they remember is yamete kudasai. Computer o shimete kudasai.
Yeah.
Shizuka ni shite kudasai. Like if I say the start of that, everyone in the class can
Yeah.
repeat it.
Yeah.
Mainly because of these boys. And I'm like, why do you think you can remember these things?
Yeah.
And
Input,
they're like,
input, input.
oh,
Yeah.
because I've heard it 400 times because I
Yeah.
don't stop talking in class.
That's right.
But they're
They-
still listening, like it's
They're
still
helping you
going
with your
in.
job, Tessa. They're providing the source for the input. Mm.
I do want to do something more targeted, especially with my 910. So I'm going to steal some of your
Yeah.
presentation
Yeah, no
bits.
worries. Like I said,
Because
I'll.
I got feedback from I was told we were doing year-long courses, but it turns out we're doing semester courses. So, I got feedback from my first semester class, and they were quite positive. But I'd say at least three or four of them, I'd like some more worksheets, and I'd like this more traditional
Yeah.
style of teaching. And I'm like, they're like, everything else, they're like, yeah, we really enjoyed it. It was great fun. And then right at the end, things you can improve on, they're like, oh, I really like some more, worksheets and
Mm.
so I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm
It's
like, I didn't quite get across why we weren't just doing grammar worksheets.
yeah. And sometimes I think adolescents they just like to say the opposite of what they think, that you want to hear. I have had that one, and then I said, okay, well, we're going to do a story, but here you go, you can work through these. Um, and that didn't last very long at all. So, I think, yeah.
And
Um,
the other one that they were like, we want to do more. How did they put it? I can't think what the wording was, but it was like, we want you to say it and then we repeat it kind of thing. And I'm like,
oh, right. Yeah.
well, if you want, it's not very interesting though, guys.
Yeah.
Um, but the new class, who still has some of the old kids in it, we did a one-word image, Monique.
Yeah, how'd you go?
And well, these are really creative kids, so they're all
Yeah.
they're all drawing beautifully. So we made a penguin.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they named it Penguin. I
Yeah.
tried to discourage them. Um,
Uh,
he's got a rainbow belly and a mohawk, and he
yeah.
lives on top of Mount Fuji, and he's only 5 centimeters tall.
Yeah.
And then we did a little bit more because I'm waiting for the classes to settle because the
Yeah.
kids keep moving in and out.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So we did a little bit more the next lesson, and he turned out to be a rock star who has an alcohol problem, which caused him to divorce his wife and not be able to see his two children. He
Oh,
plays the guitar.
yeah.
I was like, I had to veto a few other
Yeah.
ones that were getting a bit deep there. But
Yeah.
I was a bit like, I didn't see it leading in this direction. I had to look up what alcoholism was in Japanese because for some reason I don't know that word. I do now, if anyone wants to know.
Yeah, well, I don't know,
Excuse
so
me.
there you go.
Alcohol chindoku, if you want to know for
Chindoku.
the future.
Okay.
Alcohol so doku like the poison doku, chindoku.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
そ
Okay.
う、勉強になったけど、
Mm, okay.
うん、
Yeah. Well, I think, the one word images are wonderful. But yeah, important to keep the boundaries because they can go a bit crazy. So yeah, keeping it, yeah, PG. Have you done a one word image, Rachel?
Not with not at this year. No, I did
Yeah.
do it. I have done it previously in high school.
Yep.
With the grade sevens,
Mm.
and it was a lot of fun. And I
Yeah.
really even got kids interested in those lessons who just didn't want to be part of other
Yeah.
lessons. They
Yeah.
were really great. But I really should
Yeah.
try that again.
Mm.
I've been doing a lot more story lists. I tend to
Yeah.
swing between different things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this year I've been doing lots of story listening
Yeah.
and trying to circle better. So
Yeah.
I've got so much to learn. I think I do sometimes you have one lesson that goes great and then you'll have 5 lessons. It's like,
Yeah.
why did that work?
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes you never know,
No,
like you just don't. It's just
no.
it can be the time, it can be the cohort, it can be so many things. But yeah,
Yeah.
I
But
do
I think
relate.
at the end of the day, if at least they've come in, we've done a greeting, we've done the date, we've
Yeah.
done some classroom directions, at least
Mhm.
they got all that in Japanese, even
Yeah,
if the story didn't go anywhere.
yeah, that's
So,
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Ah, Oh, well, thank you both for being here tonight. That's great. It's always good to sort of share ideas and experiences, get some, uh, yeah,
Just
shared
other, yeah,
shared experience. I think the thing that I found was the most difficult thing for me moving into acquisition and CI was, you know, doing it solo. And it was really hard because you're right, Rachel, you try something and then, it might not work. And then you think, oh, this whole thing's not going to work. But the support's so important. That's
yeah,
what I have found. So thank you for coming and sharing that.
yeah.
And
Thanks
yeah,
for hosting.
no problem. And I will download this. This will be in the classroom, so you'll be able to access this. So please use it. And yeah, do check out Diane's little video because she does
Mm,
explain things really well. As I said, it's probably not so suitable for primary, but certainly for your parents, Rachel, I think that would be really some good little snippets
yeah,
to make them start to think,
yeah,
differently maybe.
yeah. Great. Thank you.
それで終わります。
ありがとうございまし
Okay.
た。
Can I
おやす
can I
み
have a
なさい。
request, Monique?
Oh,
ちょ
pardon?
っとお願い、ちょっとお
はいはい、どうぞ。
願いがあるんですか?
は
So I
い。
have been racking my brain since last week
うん。
how to incorporate Teform without going back to my old
Yeah.
traditional way of just,
うん。
the snowman song and whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can't, I can sort of, like, classroom instructions, obviously, and making them visible, I can
Yeah.
sort of do, but I can't figure out how to get those details, like if it has a key, if it's key mass, then it's
Ah.
iter, and that kind of, I
Mm.
guess it's sort of more, so it's moving beyond the Super 7 and getting more into that, I don't know, more advanced grammar type
Yeah.
thing.
I think I think if that's are we talking about verb te
Yeah,
or yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
tekudasai, teimasu, making that form so that you can put the
Mm.
suffixes on it and stuff.
Yeah. So I know that you're not super keen on TPRS stories, but that would be one that um, would you like me to have a go at I like a challenge. So to create a little te story that like a TPRS style story that you could do with your kids.
I would not say no to
Yeah.
that.
All right.
I love the idea of TPRS. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I am not a natural storyteller.
No, and I know we've talked about this before, and I found the
Mm,
scripts, my pack there, so I can have another look at those and see.
yeah.
But I just think if you're trying, there's really just two ways to go. So you either
Mm,
you teach them, and but still then it's not going to last. Or you can try and incorporate that into a story with heaps of circling. And so lots of
mm,
circling for them to be hearing it, like the good old, what it, um, it, is he, um, I can never think of examples right off the top of my head, but
no, I get that.
you know, but you know what I mean by circling. So using that so they're getting the
Mm,
oral input. And then, the other thing would be, trying to create a simple TPRS style story. And, you get your reps because they go to different locations and they're doing something. at each
Mm,
location. And then if you've got a couple of different classes, you do a different te
slightly different,
story,
yeah.
and they're giving you different examples. So
It sounds so easy when people say it, and
I
whenever
know,
when I go to do it though, I'm like, I
yeah,
can't I can't make this work. I can't think.
yeah,
And then the kids, especially like my 910s, they're just really creative. Like they're
mm,
straight off somewhere I've not expected.
mm.
Like we were just listing transport words last year, and they were like sky whale, as like their third example. I'm like, can't we just do the normal ones before we get to the sky whales? Like I love that they want to do
Yeah,
that, but I don't
yeah,
know. I guess I don't know how to set the boundaries to make it
yeah,
not so far out. Because like with the
yeah.
penguin that they made, they were immediately they had like started sketching mecha armor for him. And then someone had drawn a picture of him super muscly so he could climb up into his mecha armor and
Mm,
fight off the what was it, the Overlord dolphins or something. Like before he'd even finished class, they concocted this side story
mm,
of Penguin, and I was like, oh, I don't know how to
mm.
say any of that in Japanese.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I don't know rebellion and whatever in Japanese yet.
yeah. And I would just I think that that is probably the tricky part of TPRS stories, and it's finding the balance between the creativity of the kids and also what is, what's the focus part. So I guess one easy fix would be to, if you're focusing on the Super 7 or the Sweet 16 or whatever, and that's your focus, then the other rebellion or those proper nouns you could do in katakana or even in English. If you're really, they're not essential words, are they? Like armor and whatever. I think if it gets too yeah, too out there and the focus is more on the vocab rather than, what they want to say they're doing with the language, that can sometimes be problematic. But one way of limiting or scaffolding that is just by using katakana words, your cognates, just to help out
Do you
for
think it would restrict it too much? I was thinking of just doing like just really limiting like either or three choices because
yeah,
I kind of badly stole your idea of how you sorry, I am gonna buy the
yeah,
slideshow, but
no,
I
no,
need to
you're
go.
right, you're right.
Of how you did the one word image where you had
Mm.
the like three choices and the
Yeah, yeah,
pictures and then it led to something else. I didn't have time to make it as beautiful as
yeah,
yours, but I
yeah.
just wanted them, okay, well, these are the three
Mm.
options, or even I think it was even nine options, I think, or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So do you think that would work in a TPRS style as well, or is it
Yeah,
too?
yeah. No, you could, it becomes a bit more like a choose your own adventure, within these
Hmm.
boundaries, I guess.
Because I think these guys are lovely, and they're gonna. I've only got 7 kids this term. I
Mm,
feel a bit bad. I went from 25 to 7.
yeah, yeah.
But when I looked at the feedback, everyone was like, "We enjoyed the class. These activities were fun. This was good."
Mm,
They just wanted to go and try different
yeah,
stuff. So I was
yeah,
like, I guess it wasn't me. It was,
yeah,
it's hard not to take it personally, though.
yeah, I know, I know.
Excuse me.
And it really
Um,
sucks that we have to, that this is something
mm,
that we even have to deal with, really. It'd be nice just
yeah,
for the second language to be a thing and we didn't have to fight for it,
yeah,
that would be
yeah.
nice. But
So
that's
I might
reality.
try and we're reading Momo at the moment. We started
Mm.
reading Momo. Because most of them have had a semester off from Japanese, so I think we just need to go back and
Yeah.
look at some of those Super 7 fundamentals again,
Yeah.
and then
Yep.
maybe we'll give it a shot with
Yeah.
the TEFORM and the TPRS.
Yeah. Well, I'll have a little play. I'm happy to,
Excuse
see
me.
what I can do there. But that's
Yeah.
what my advice would be. It really drill down on the circling, especially when there's new language
Mm.
chunks. And you know, you obviously don't need to circle words that are acquired that you know, the
Mm.
bulk of the kids know. But yeah, any of these new chunks, circle those
Mm.
ones and then follow up with again the write and discuss. Then you've got your language, your written language there that's
Well, I did that for my one word image, Minnie.
well
I made
done.
sure we had time.
Well done. I've been at her, Rachel. I've been saying you get onto this one. Write and discuss. It's the way to go. Got to do
Yeah.
it. So yeah, proud of you, Tessa. Good job.
Good luck with your TEF form. Good luck with your TEF form, Tessa.
Thank you. Arigato gozaimasu.
All right. Thanks
Mm.
very much, guys. All right. We'll
Good night.
see you next time.
ありがとうございました。
おやすみなさい。
おやすみなさい。
おやすみなさい。